CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Several people in Vancouver's West End are recovering victims of a horrific attack in their building last night. A man went from floor to floor in a bloody rampage, slashing and stabbing people at random. It all began just before 7 last night near Barclay and Butte Streets in Vancouver in the West End. Police say the suspect doesn't live in the building, but reportedly was running through hallways on several floors, stabbing as he went. 2 of the victims were released from the hospital this morning. 4 others are still in the hospital being treated, 1 in critical condition. A 7th victim was treated at the scene, along with a police officer injured, taking the suspect into custody. Investigators are now trying to figure out how it happened and what was the motive. Another pedestrian has been hit in Victoria. A woman recovering tonight after being hit by an SUV while she was in a marked crosswalk. It's the latest on a long list of these incidents this year. Witnesses say the driver of the SUV was trying to turn left from Broad Street onto Johnson, was looking to her right for a gap in traffic, and then pulled out and hit the woman in the crosswalk. Police say the woman whacked her head pretty hard on the pavement and was sent to the hospital with undetermined injuries.
There's a huge misconception with a lot of pedestrians that believe that pedestrians automatically have the right of way, and they do not. In this case, though, where the impact was struck, clearly it was the fault of the driver.
The driver of the SUV has been charged with failing to yield to a pedestrian. More than 1,100 BC drivers who were caught up in the province's new tougher drunk driving rules before part of that law was found unconstitutional are getting some of their penalties overturned. Those penalties include requiring drivers to attend education programs and install ignition lock systems.
Now, the penalties themselves are not being overturned. The immediate roadside prohibitions remain on the driver's records. This is just about the superintendent's referral to remedial programs, such as the Responsible Driver Program and the Ignition Interlock Program.
The government says it is still deciding if it'll issue refunds to some of the drivers who paid more than $2,600 to take the course and install the ignition locks. The immediate roadside prohibitions will stay on the drivers' permanent records. The 1,100 drivers affected were among 36,000 who were referred to the program. A Victoria woman who robbed 2 11-year-old girls at knife point near the Hillside Mall and made off with their cell phones in their backpacks was in court today to plead guilty. Tegan McFarlane has also admitted to robbing 2 women near the Mayfair Mall, shoplifting from a Canadian Tire store, and trafficking in cocaine. McFarlane pleaded guilty to all 6 charges in Victoria court today. She says she stole to support her drug habit. The Crown wants a sentence of 12 to 18 months. McFarlane will be back in court for sentencing later. It's been more than 2 months now since Emma Philippoff disappeared. The 27-year-old woman was last seen on November 28th and then vanished from the streets of Victoria. Since then, her mother has flown to Victoria from Ottawa and joined teams of volunteers who have been scouring the city for any trace of her, but so far there has been none. Emma worked at the Redfish Bluefish restaurant in the Inner Harbour for 3 months last summer. She referred to the staff there as her family and her workplace as her second home. Today, Emma was scheduled to return to work at the restaurant for a second season. There were lineups at Redfish Bluefish stretching down the dock, but there was no sign of Emma.
Emma Philippoff was working here for about 3 months last season, and she told us she was going to come back, start this season off with us, but I haven't heard from her yet, but we remain hopeful.
Emma's mother and Victoria Police remain hopeful as well, and they're hoping you can help. If you have any information on Emma's whereabouts, you're asked to contact Victoria Police. A stonemason who was hired to repair a 150-year-old wall near Victoria's Inner Harbour has discovered much more than just old bricks. His team uncovered a hidden chamber that runs beneath the city. The owner of the company has been repairing old walls around Victoria for decades and says this is one of the most interesting things his team has ever come across. He says it looks like the tunnel runs under Wharf Street for about 60 meters. The area was once owned by the Hudson's Bay Store warehouse around 1860, and the team that uncovered the chamber says it was likely used for access to shipments from incoming vessels.
We were rebuilding the buttresses of the wall here, and we're putting a flashing on to try and keep water out. And we noticed a hole in the wall, and we stuck a tape measure in there, and it just kept going and going and going. So we got a flashlight and tried to look in there, and we could see a stone wall back there. So that piqued our interest. And
James Dean was hired by the Provincial Capital Commission, which is responsible for the wall, and didn't know that the chamber existed. The revelation of the chamber has sparked the interest of many who believe that much of Victoria's history remains hidden beneath the city streets. Victoria Police were called to a hotel on Gorge Road this afternoon with reports of a man with a gun. The 911 calls started coming in around 1:30. Reports of an assault underway in the 400 block of Gorge Road East at the Scotsman Motel. There were also reports of a gun involved. Vic PD swarmed the area and closed off Gorge Road. Officers tried for hours to make contact with the suspected gunman. A negotiator was called in as armed police surrounded the room. At about 4 o'clock, police took a man into custody without incident.
We're in the process of searching the suite right now. So the man, like I said, he was assaulted. He's received some minor injuries at the time. So now we're just going to work through, now that we have both people with us, we're going to work through exactly what happened.
Vic PD says the suspect is a 43-year-old man. They won't confirm if there was, in fact, a firearm involved. Police say a 40-year-old man suffered minor injuries in the assault. Both men are known to police. In other world news tonight, the death toll has risen and the search for survivors continues in Mexico City. At least 25 people were killed, more than 100 others were injured in an explosion at the headquarters of the state-run oil company Pemex. Officials are not sure which caused the blast yesterday afternoon at shift change in the basement of a building next door to the 51-story Pemex Tower, which is a Mexico City landmark. The tower's basement and two floors, first floors collapsed. It appears tonight that the blast was accidental. It was 10 years ago today the Space Shuttle Columbia broke up on re-entry, killing all 7 astronauts on board. The victims were honored at the Space Mirror Memorial in Florida today and at the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. The tragedy happened when the shuttle's left wing failed to withstand the heat while re-entering the Earth atmosphere. It burst into flames and broke up in the sky over Texas. Those Australian DJs responsible for a royal hoax in December will not face criminal charges. The shock jocks had prank called Kate Middleton's hospital during her stay for severe morning sickness. The nurse who connected the call later committed suicide. Prosecutors say there is no evidence to support a charge of manslaughter. Former New York City Mayor Ed Koch has died. Koch was the mayor of New York for more than 10 years and led the Big Apple through a period of difficult economic times. He was larger than life, well known for his trademark question, "How am I doing?" He died early this morning after a year of various health issues and hospitalization. Ed Koch was 88 years old. RCMP are on the hunt for thieves responsible for a high-end tire heist. RCMP say thieves cut through a locked gate at the Fountain Tire facility on Wellington Road sometime between last Friday and Monday. And they got away with 24 high-end commercial-grade tires, which combined are worth as much as $10,000. The tires are Dunlop SP 932 casings with heavy lug Goodyear treads. They were recapped and are designed for off-road use for logging or dump trucks. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Nanaimo RCMP or Crime Stoppers. BC's Education Minister was in Nanaimo today at a professional development day for staff members of the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District. And a major topic of discussion, of course, was the province's proposal for a new 10-year contract agreement. The BC Teachers Federation rejected the proposal out of hand last week, the same day it was offered. The Premier says the deal would change the culture of bargaining and provide stability in education and give teachers a say in education policy making. The Teachers Federation says signing the deal means that teachers would have to give up their rights to bargain class size, classroom composition, and salary. The head of the Nanaimo Teachers Association says while some of the contract is concerning, what is most puzzling for him is the timing.
I think the timing was suspect. I'm not sure why it would have to come out a day before both provincial parties are about to ratify an agreement on how to bargain and how to move forward.
We lay out this framework, and now the next piece is let's have a conversation about, what they have questions about, concerns about, successes within the framework. But let's not make assumptions about what's in the framework, because it's just a point to have the next round of conversations.
The BC Teachers Federation is expected to ratify an agreement this weekend which would lay out the framework for contract talks this year. Students at a high school in Nanaimo will soon be kept safer after the province signed a deal to pump $22.5 million into seismic upgrades. BC's Education Minister made the announcement in Nanaimo today. It'll benefit Wellington Secondary. The school is made up of several separate buildings, most of which were deemed to be high risk in the event of an earthquake. Wellington is, in fact, near the top of BC's list of schools that need the upgrades most.
We're trying to prioritize the important schools that need to be seismically upgraded based on construction of the school, location, ground that it's built on, and making sure we hit the highest priority schools first and work our way through a list and making sure we're getting the best return for our investment. Student safety is huge.
Wellington holds about 900 students in grades 8 to 12. The upgrades are scheduled to be complete by the fall of 2016.